Greetings, good day, and welcome. I'm Deanna. We don't have time for an introduction because we're going to get right to talking about one of the most important things in the world, books. Earlier this year, I did make a TBR list for books that I wanted to read throughout 2024. However, I say maybe I stuck to 50% of that list thus far, and then the other books that I've read have been just random pickups. So we're going to talk about the books that were on my list that I read and the books that were not on the list but I also read. And I'll try my best not to give any spoilers. I don't think I have any, but if I do come across one, I'll let y'all know before I give the details, okay?
Okay.
First up, we have The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. And talk about being triggered. This book follows a character named Maddie, who is a white passing biracial girl. However, she has spent her entire life hiding the fact that she is black. But one day, she is not able to hide that fact anymore. And the days to follow, child. From chapter 1, Tiffany is on our necks. Like, when I first picked up the book, I probably had this book on my shelf for at least a year, and I read the first chapter and I had to close it. I had to close the book because, again, talk about being triggered. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm 100% on Shorty's side. I'm 10 toes down for Maddie. If she needed me to jump in and wild out with her, I would have did it. I would have done it. And at the end, the support that Maddie receives, I would have been that person 1,000%. If you read the book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I would have been that support system. Hands down, no question about it. Like, oh man. I'm glad it turned out how it did for her, but my goodness. The only thing I can say that I did not like about the book, but Tiffany D. Jackson, you are infamous for doing this, so I just accepted that this is your writing style and you love doing this to us. But the cliffhanger that we are left with at the end of this book, oh my God. It's like you know what happened, but not really. Like, it's just so open-ended. So like, that's the only thing I wish there was just more. I wish I could know more about like what happened with Maddie and the town and all the other such. Like, it's my only criticism. Overall, I would give this a 4 out of 5. Next, we have The Between by Tananarive Dive. I hope that's how you say her name. And if it's not, miss, I am sorry in advance. The Between is a psychological thriller, and after reading it, I definitely understand why it has been categorized as such. This book is following the life of a young boy named Hilton, whose grandmother sacrificed herself to save him from drowning, so unfortunately she drowned instead. 30 years later, he's feeling like it was him that was supposed to drown, that he was not supposed to survive that accident, and there are like dark forces working against him, like in his mind and certain like dreams, and I guess you could say like hallucinations and such that he's having, that again is making him feel like maybe I'm not supposed to be here. At the same time, he is married to a woman that is the only African-American judge in their county, and they start receiving like really racist mail from a hater. And in the midst of him having his own like psychological warfare, he's also having physical warfare because whoever this racist is threatening him and his family on a pretty consistent basis. So they're pretty scared. And as he is dealing with this physical external warfare, the nightmares that he's having are getting worse and worse. How this book is written, in some instances, it feels as though you are right inside of the mind of the protagonist. So if Hilton had goosebumps, or like if he felt like he was drowning, the details circling that also made you feel like you had goosebumps and were drowning. Just the detailing of his life and his experiences and the descriptions of his psyche, again, you are placed really in the experiences and the nightmares and such of Hilton. Now, reading it, I'm not gonna lie, there were some parts that I had to reread or I had to go back a few pages because it either got a little bit confusing, or again, there were instances where there's like a cross between fantasy or his nightmares and reality, and sometimes when things switched, it was like, damn, is he in the real world or is he in dream world? So though it got confusing sometimes, it lived up to the confusion of the protagonist. So as we are reading and trying to figure out if things are real or if it's not, he's trying to do the same thing. Overall, I would give this a 3.7 out of 5. Next, because book 1 had me so emotional, I immediately had to grab book 2, and that's Loving You Always by Kennedy Ryan. And Kennedy, if you're watching this, Kennedy. As I said, I was so emotional and so drawn to the characters in book 1. And when I posted a video about it, Kennedy literally wrote me and said that she hopes I have book 2 on standby.
Emotional damage.
I didn't, but I never ran out and got a second book so fast in my life. Like, I needed it expeditiously. The story follows the life of a woman named Carice, hope that's right, I hope I'm saying that right, Walsh and Cameron, and they are in this messy love triangle, but it's like, it's so good. I cried a lot during book 1, but I was like snot nose ugly cry, where are the tissues crying in book 2. And though it is such a messy situation, I found myself like cheering for the quote unquote villains of the story. Like, oh, I'm standing really 10 toes down for they love. Oh my god, I want they love to conquer. Like, oh my god, again, it's so messy. And like, I think I already made a video about this too, like a short video, but Cameron, from the first book, I felt so bad for him, and then in the second book, I'm like, fight me. Walsh, he goes through so much, like, oh my god, I just want to hold him and give him a hug. I want a Walsh in my life too. Where's my Walsh? And Carice, like, ultimately, I am happy that she chose herself first, that she decided that she had to put herself first.
I gotta put me first. I gotta put me first.
Kennedy does such a great job of really tugging on your emotional strings and really making you connect with the characters. It's not, as y'all can see, it's not a super long book. It's what, 246 pages. And in these 246 pages, like, you connect so much with each character. You understand each of their emotions. Even in some instances, you might relate to exactly how they're feeling. For her to be able to do all of that in such a short amount of paper, the girl knows what she's doing. The girl knows what she is doing. Overall, I would give this book a 4.5 out of 5. And I think I have book 3 on my shelf, and I know there's a book 4, so I'm gonna be reading those too, so stay tuned for that. This next book definitely went beyond what I expected from it. It's called The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer. The blurb tells you it's the astonishing true life story about what happens when you just let go, but it was fascinating to see just how much this man let go and let God, let the universe take control. If something pointed him in like a certain direction, he didn't give no resistance. He was just like, all right, so it seems like I should go this way. This door has opened, so I'm gonna walk through it with no questions asked. Talk about operating in faith. He was placed in some crazy situations, ones that would have taken away all his wealth. It would have taken away all the work that he did. It was even instances where like his life and livelihood were in danger, and his faith was unwavering, and he still was like, look, God is gonna work out for me. The universe is gonna play in my favor. I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm supposed to do and let the dominoes fall into place. And lo and behold, each and every time he continuously let go and did not take control and continued to have like literally no level of resistance, everything worked out in his favor, like everything. There was even instances where he had to prove himself where he shouldn't have had to, but he did it, and again, it worked out for him. Like, oh my god, I was mad for him, and I'm like, how could you not be angry? How could you still just move and operate with that's like level of faith? It was just so astonishing to see how powerful he was and how much he allowed, just as I said, his faith to guide him and to not let anything deter him from the path he knows that he was set to go down. The level of success and accomplishment and history that he was able to make is crazy. Crazy. This is definitely a book for anyone who is dealing with trying to maintain faith, or anyone who has been put in like some situations and they're like, how do I keep focus? How do I still stay on the path? How do I not lose faith? This man details that to the T. And like, when I say he went through some and really did not let his faith waver, I really mean that. Overall, I would give this a 4 out of 5. Next, in another book that off rip from chapter 1, you're like, what? It's Deacon King Kong by James McBride. The introduction to the book starts off with this former deacon who walks up to this notorious drug dealer in this projects in Brooklyn, pulls out a gun and shoots my guy at point blank range. Stop that. Not on the bed. Don't be looking. Don't yawn. The details that James McBride uses to illustrate each character and the scenes is so remarkable. I can really like see, feel, smell, and even taste certain instances. Like, whew, this man does a great job at metaphors and details and just really putting you in the time and place of all the events that are occurring. And there's so much more happening in the story and around this like main event of this drug dealer getting shot by this former deacon, which I did not expect, but it was very interesting to read, and how everything connected together was mind-blowing. The book also felt really familiar to me because, one, it's based in New York, and two, the events happen within the projects. I'm a New Yorker, I grew up in the projects, and though this wasn't my exact neighborhood, because I'm from Harlem, this is based in Brooklyn, the neighborhood that was described was very reflective to mine, so it felt very authentic. Many of the characters, the events, and the locations described sounded a lot like where I grew up, and there were a lot of references that I was able to connect with. And if you are somebody from New York / somebody who grew up in the projects, if you read this book, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And what I also love is you see the origin of the title of the book, and it's not what you expect. I know I had made an assumption of why the main character was given the title of King Kong or Deacon King Kong, and I was like 50% right, but I was not expecting the real reason behind the name. But it was also interesting, and it explained a lot, like the background of the characters and just like the build up and the relationships and the connections and stuff. Again, you focus much more than just on that main plot of the deacon shooting the drug dealer, but there's so much more in that and so much more to unpack. Again, James McBride did a phenomenal job illustrating everything. As y'all can see, this was one of the books that I decided to take some notes on, and I had a lot of thoughts while reading. A lot. Overall though, I would give this a 4.7 out of 5. Next, and I can't believe I'm just getting to a fantasy book, because outside of horror and thrillers, fantasy books are my number one. I love to read fantasy books. Love it. But next, we have A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. For those of you who know the series, interested in the series, or have read the series, for me, this was the best book of them all. It's the best one. I'm just saying. We are continuing to follow the life of Feyre and Ryzan and Tamlin and Lucian and Casey and Cassian, Azriel, Amryn. Oh my god. Like, Oh my God. Ryzan, I wish you were a real person and that I could apologize to you. I am so sorry. You are top 2 and you not number 2. You never been number 2. I wasn't on your side in book 1, but they did you wrong. They did you wrong. Oh my God. I love you. Tamlin, I don't have nothing nice to say about you. And if there was like a live action movie created around this book, whoever is casted as Tamlin, I would like to fight you, and I don't wish nothing good for you. Nothing. Feyre, I am very happy that you got it together, girl. Like we've been waiting. The people have been waiting, and you did it. So good job. Lucien, so sorry, my brother. Cassian, Azriel, Amryn, and my girl Ian. I don't know how to say her name, but those are my guys. Like 10 toes down. Like they really, oh my God, like so many sacrifices. So they just, like, Ryzan, I understand why you be going to bat for them, because I would too. Morrigan, just like Tamlin can see me, you could see me more. She could definitely see me more, but let me not talk about her too much. She's gonna stress me out and I'm gonna have to go fight. Like, as I'm just sitting here reflecting on book 2, especially in comparison to book 1, I cannot believe how crazy it got. Really went down. Like I said, this is the best book in the series. Okay, overall I'm gonna give this a 4.5 out of 5. Next, and it looks like I'm staying on my fantasy wave. Like I said, I am a fantasy girl. We have A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. The Barnes & Noble by me was closing, and they had like a blowout sale. Like it was so many hardcovers and stuff that you were able to buy for like 50, 60, 70% off. But I found book 2 first. I didn't realize it was book 2 when I bought it, but I found book 2 and then I was like, damn, I need book 1 if I'm gonna be able to read book 2. So then luckily book of the month had book 1, so I ordered it and read it, so then I could read book 2. This is the story of a civilization that is cut down the middle. You have one side that flourishes a lot with their magic, and the magic doesn't drain on them. However, their land is inhabitable, but then the other side, their land flourishes. They always have enough like supplies and resources. However, when they use magic, it literally takes away from their lifespan. In this kingdom where their land is flourishing and doing well, eventually they start seeing that a number of their young girls goes missing, and they believe that the other kingdom is responsible for why these young girls are gone. The protagonist, whose name is Jack, has spent a number of years away. He is from the kingdom in which their magic takes away from their lifespan, and upon his return he is accidentally tasked with finding out what has happened to these missing young girls. And the twist of what happened to the girls and where they are and why they are where they at, talk about a twist. I was not expecting it at all, like at all. It is a thicker fantasy book, so it took a little bit to like build up and, you know, get the hype going. But once the plot truly begins and you truly see what's going on in these two kingdoms, it's really good. And of course, I have already started book 2. Overall, I would give this a 3.5 out of 5. You officially made it to the halfway mark. If you're still watching, drop a fave 2024 read of yours in the comments. Now, let's keep going. So we talked about all the books that were on my list that I read. Now we're gonna get into the random picks. Now, because book 2 went crazy, of course, I had to pick up book 3, which is A Court of Wings and Ruin, again, by Sarah J. Maas. When I say I literally could not move on to another book, another series, nothing until I got a hold of book 3. And yes, That's how crazy book 2 went. Though a continuation of book 2, it was not as intense as book 2. There were some parts that I felt like were a little bit dragged. However, there was more world building that had to happen and more like character development and such, so it made sense why it dragged a little bit. And what I also really liked about book 3 is that it allowed you to get much more perspectives from different characters, so we weren't just focusing solely on Ryzan or Feyre or Tamlin. Like, we got much more in depth in the minds of Cassian and Azriel and Lucian and such, so I really enjoyed that aspect of the book as well. We still love Ryzan, we still love his people, Cassian, Azriel, all of them. Tamlin is still a bird, we still want to fight him. He improves here and there, but then he don't, so ultimately I still want to fight him. Overall, I would give this a 4 out of 5. Now, though book 3 wasn't as intense as book 2, book 3 still made me want to keep going in the series. So I read A Court of Frost and Starlight. I don't have the physical book. I used Libby and checked out the book from the library. So if you have Libby, you're welcome. Off rip, first and foremost, the best thing about this book is that it is a third of the length of book 3. Like, there was just so much going on, and again, book 2 was so intense and there was a lot of new being brought into book 3 that it was a good like semi-pause from all of what was happening in the spring court and the night court and all the other courts in the book. And like, honestly, with all my heart, I needed the characters to have a break. Like, they just, the definition of
All my life I had to fight.
like, damn. After this book though, I did decide to take a little break, especially because the last book is the longest, I think, of all of them. So I will be reading that book before the end of the year, but I needed a break from this series. Like, I just needed a break. Again, like, my heart is honestly not ready for the last book. I'm not ready. And like, isn't it so sad to get to the end of a series? Like, you know, you love being able to see like what ultimately happens to the characters, but it's like, damn, the series is really over. Overall, I would give this a 3.2 out of 5. Next, and I literally picked it up because I was looking at the cover, like, it's called We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. And yes, the book is as creepy as it looks. 1000%. Like I said, just as much as I am a fantasy girl, I love horror stories. I love creepy stories. I don't know what it is, but I love them. And this book definitely lived up to the expectations of a creepy horror story. The book follows the story of these 3 family members. It's a girl, it's her sister, and either her older uncle or grandfather. I'm not sure which one. But these 3 family members are living in this castle, and the entire town like shuns them and kind of forces them to remain in this castle as much as possible, because there used to be 10 family members, and now that there's 3, and the events that occurred to them dwindling down to 3, the town believes that one of the 3 remaining killed the other 7. Now, though it is originally detailed that the reason why the other 7 are gone is because of just some freak accident, but the town don't think it was no accident, so they not f***ing with the family that's remaining. And I'm like, man, look, if I was living somewhere and I thought these people purposefully killed their family members, I would be looking at them sideways too, and I'm not trying to be around them either. So I feel the town folks 100%. It was a good read. I did like the build up to the story. The end wasn't like, you know, a huge shocker or a big surprise or anything like that, but it was a well written story. And like, just seeing the, I guess, the unfolding of the mind of the characters and like the town and such, you're just like, oh shit. And the story makes you question, would you hold it down like that for a family member? If you was put into some crazy situation like this, would you stick 10 toes down by your crazy family member? And I don't know. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would. Overall, I give this a 3.5 out of 5. Next, and I'm completely switching the game up right now because we're talking about a manga. And the one that I decided to read And I got this big ass box, but Naruto. Particularly, this is volumes 1 through 27. Even though that's 1 through 27, I am currently on volume 30. I was able to find the other volumes at the library, and I have been flying through them, like as if the books is gonna not be available. That's how fast I'm reading them. Like one day somebody gonna come in here and say, you know what, ain't no more Naruto, the manga is gone, like you should have read it when you had a chance. This manga follows the story of a young ninja named Naruto Uzumaki, and he has spent his entire life being shunned by his peers in the village that he lives in. He grew up not really knowing why he's being shunned. He eventually finds out, and you just see him just being the hardest worker in the world, just trying to improve himself and becoming the best ninja that he can be. And his dream is for him to eventually become the next Hokage, which is the leader of his village. I know Naruto has been out for a while. I know I'm late to the party. Don't come for me. I have not watched Naruto, but I've read the manga and I get it now. Like, I get it. And I'm gonna watch the anime, like, probably starting tonight. Since picking up volume 1, I have not been able to put it down. I've been needing to find out what happens to Naruto and everybody else, like,
I need it!
expeditiously. I love Naruto. He is just mad funny. I feel like me and him in real life, we would be best friends. Sakura, like, I'm sorry, but she get on my nerves. She really get on my nerves. And Sasuke, bro. Oh my god, like, man, I was on his side. Now I'm like, I thought he was gonna do better and stuff, and he just keeps blowing mine more and more and more. And to an extent, I understand, you know, your family history and stuff, but don't. Oh my god, Sasuke. Oh my god, and Rock Lee. Oh my god. Oh my god, Rock Lee. Like, how can you not love him? And then, like, what happened to him, I was so sad, but then, you know, it got better, but I was still just so emotional for him. I love Naruto, but like, Rock Lee is definitely like number 2 for me of all the characters in the book. And Kakashi, it was either volume 28 or 29. I think it's volume 28, but you get to see his origins and stuff, and oh my god, and how he got to where he is and such. Oh my god, talk about emotional. Like, I literally was crying, like real tears. It was just multiple occasions where I'm like, I shouldn't be this runny nose, snot nose looking crazy like this reading a manga, but I was. Overall, I'm giving the series a 5 out of 5. Masashi Kishimoto, I hope I'm saying your name right. Excellent series. I see why people hold Naruto to such a high level. I'm definitely One Piece number 1 all the way, but Naruto, yeah, 5 out of 5. Last but certainly not least, and of course, is another creepy horror story to wrap this up, but it's called Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. At first, looking at the author's name, I was like, he sounds familiar. And then I read the bottom and it says author of Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I'm like, oh, that's why he sounds familiar. I thought We Have Always Lived in a Castle was creepy, but this this takes the cake. The story follows a young boy named Christopher and his mom who moved to this new town trying to start a new life. And Christopher, he's not fitting in as much. He's not really making friends. He just feels like an oddball and such. He's not doing too well in school. And then one day he vanishes for 6 days. So for those 6 days, nobody could find him. It's literally like he dropped off the face of the earth, until on that last day, he randomly emerges from like this forest that's in the middle of town, and he was unharmed. Like, there was no like physical trauma or anything that happened to him. However, he is definitely not the same little boy. Upon his return, he has this voice that is now in his head that he calls his imaginary friend, and this imaginary friend tells him that he needs to build a tree house in the forest that he walked out of by Christmas, or Christopher, his mother, the whole town, and everybody is going to be in a lot of trouble. The events that unfold from Christopher meeting this imaginary friend, and it's like a cross between like reality in the real world and like this other realm of like, I just Oh my god, like Christopher, I think he's only like 8 years old, and this little boy goes through a lot to just try to save the town. There's so many instances in the book where I was literally gasping out loud and so shocked about what was happening and the events unfolding. Like, I'm like, Christopher, run! Oh my god! Like, mom, get out the way! Oh my god, sheriff! Like, I don't have the words. I don't have the words. And like, it was interesting to see what this imaginary friend turned out to be. The plot twist around the imaginary friend, that I was not expecting it at all, but it was really good. The only thing is that the end was a little bit dragged. There were some instances where I felt like it could have been wrapped up, even though when it continued, it was still a really good story. But I was like, please, like, please. Overall, I gave this a 4.2 out of 5. Well, you made it to the end of this video. Shout outs to you and thanks for watching.
Sometimes goodbyes are a bitch.
T-shirt idea. Goodbye stink.
If you didn't do it at the halfway mark, make sure you leave me some book recommendations in the comments below. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, bye y'all.